Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Coming up on today's show, 14-year-old British-Nigerian schoolboy Daniel Anjorin has been named as a victim of Tuesday's frenzied stabbing attack in Greater London. The tragedy has shocked the nation and has once again called into question the safety of the British capital. Councillor Babatunde Ajisola, the Deputy Mayor of Luton, will be joining me shortly with his reaction to this horrific event, and as America pledges to collaborate with Nigeria in advancing the nation's digital economy with a focus on artificial intelligence, infrastructure and financial consultant Swinney will shortly be joining me here in the studio for his assessment of Nigeria's evolving AI strategy. Then later, Femi Aluko, the CEO and co-founder of on-demand delivery service Chowdeck, will be joining me from Lagos to talk about the firm's expansion plans after securing $2.5 million in seed funding. But first, women were among the first migrants detained this week for deportation to Rwanda in a series of raids in the four nations of the UK. More than 800 immigration enforcement officers were involved in the operation, but officials refused to disclose how many migrants had been detained due to fears that doing so would undermine the process. Those detained were taken to one of 7 immigration removal centres, where they will be kept until the first flight leaves for Rwanda in 9 to 11 weeks. Protesters are staging demonstrations at Home Office immigration buildings in a bid to block the detentions. Elsewhere, the British Deputy Foreign Secretary Andrew Mitchell has announced sanctions on high-profile Ugandan politicians charged with corruption. It is the first time the UK government has used the global anti-corruption sanctions regime on individuals involved in corruption in Uganda. The 3 individuals who have been charged with corruption at Uganda's anti-corruption court will be subject to travel bans and asset freezes. The 2 former ministers sanctioned, Mary Goretti Kitutu and Agnes Nandutu, stole thousands of iron sheets used for roofing and infrastructure from a Ugandan government-funded project aimed at housing some of the most vulnerable communities in the region, providing them to prominent politicians and their families instead. The Speaker of the Parliament, Anita Annette Among, benefited from the proceeds. Over 60% of people in Karamaja live in poverty, and many suffer from the devastating impacts of drought and insecurity. In other news, John Swinney, Scotland's former Deputy First Minister, has announced his intention to stand for the leadership of the Scottish National Party after the resignation of the country's First Minister. Humza Yousaf resigned on Monday, triggering a leadership contest as the SNP seeks to heal internal divisions and strengthen its position ahead of UK parliamentary elections. Well, for more on this, I was earlier joined in the studio by our Downing Street correspondent, Simon Pusey. Simon, it was always going to be difficult for Humza Yousaf to fit into those big shoes that Nicola Sturgeon left, but I think not many people would have expected it to be this decision of the Scottish National Party splitting away from the Green Party. Was that the final nail in the coffin for him?
Yeah, I think he was the sort of architect of his own downfall, but I think just saying that is too simplistic. So if we just take a step back, 397 days. So a lot of people talking about how tumultuous Scottish politics is, and they've had 3 First Ministers in just over a year. But let's not forget that's 8.1 Liz Trusses. So if we take in the context of Westminster, it doesn't seem
not
so
bad.
And there is a combination of things in play here. It's a very new political system they have, only 25 years old, which on the surface of it looks like it's quite a long time, but they're still sort of trying to get used to this new system. You've got opposition parties seem more willing to take down First Ministers there than they do here, really. There's also been a big shift between Labour, that was so dominant in Scottish politics for so long, and now the SNP, that's been dominant more recently. And remember, the SNP is really 2 parties that have joined together. They've put their differences aside to try and go after independence, and now independence hasn't worked, or at least at the referendum a couple of years ago, that was a stay in the union referendum. So that's kind of, caused the differences to rise up again, because they don't have a clear path at the moment to independence or to another referendum. And then you've got those 2 huge beasts of Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon, who have ruled for so long. And once they've disappeared and they've had their own big bust up, it's like picking up a rock and you see all the worms underneath. You've got that kind of, oh, this is actually what was going on. And they were keeping it together very much. Huge political powers, Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Alex Salmond, who just completely dominated. So
Salmond isn't completely gone, is he?
Well, he hasn't, and he's obviously in another party. But I don't think Humza Yousaf helped himself by deciding, for whatever reason, to try and rule as a minority government, because as we see, and he said himself that was a miscalculation. But I don't think it was all his fault. I think a lot of this was kind of there in the woodwork before, and now you've obviously got another sort of runoff to be who wants to be leader.
Is it going to be a runoff?
Well, I mean, a lot of people are saying John Swinney is the sort of front runner. They're obviously the people that Humza Yousaf went up against, and that was a very divisive campaign. And he is saying we don't want another one of these. So he kind of wants to hand over. But he was kind of handed over, or even though he won, he was kind of Nicola Sturgeon's. So it's kind of a poison chalice, isn't it? Saying, right, now you take over, because maybe John Swinney, as experienced as he is and, knowledgeable about Scottish politics, he'll probably also really struggle. But I think at the moment, it's just trying to keep that together. And it's interesting, we're sitting here when we talk about UK politics and Westminster politics so much about how sort of how much of a
mess,
a terror show that is. Yeah, exactly. That we're now talking about Scottish politics and who thought that there'd be another, maybe election before a UK general election. So
that's right. How does this affect Westminster? What's the reacts from Downing Street?
Well, I think, they'll be loving this, won't they? Because they can say SNP are obviously always there to grill the government and the Conservatives. I think it'll actually boost Labour a lot as well, because Labour will really be the big winners out of this. And often I think when people are voting Labour in local elections and in general elections in Scotland, they kind of think about what's happening in Westminster as well. And obviously it looks like there's going to be a landslide Labour win here. So who knows what's going to happen in Scotland? Maybe there'll be a landslide there because the SNP are really falling apart. Unless John Swinney can kind of keep this together. And there's still obviously a big push for independence. But at the moment, it doesn't look like the SNP are really the party that they once, well, even a year ago were, when Nicola Sturgeon was in power. Absolutely.
And I suppose the results of the local elections will determine how this all plays out across the rest of the country. Thanks, Simon. A 36-year-old man appeared in court on Thursday, charged with murder after British-Nigerian schoolboy Daniel Anjorin, aged just 14, was killed on Tuesday morning. Marcus Monzo, a dual national Spanish-Brazilian residing in East London, is also accused of 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 of grievous bodily harm, aggravated burglary and possession of a bladed article. Daniel was on his way to school at the time of his murder. A neighbour who lives next door to the Anjorin family said he was quiet and just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Councillor Babatunde Ajisola, the Deputy Mayor of Luton. Councillor Babatunde Ajisola, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know, of course, you are part of the local election campaign taking place in England and Wales this week, but you've paused to talk about a tragic incident that's taken place on Tuesday morning. We didn't expect that it would impact our community, the British Nigerian community, as it has. Firstly, your thoughts about Daniel Anjorin's tragic loss of life.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. First and foremost, our thoughts are with the families and loved ones of the Anjorins, which with the names indicates they are of Nigerian descent. It's a very unfortunate incident, of course, unexpectedly. To lose one's child in such circumstances is indeed very, very sad. And so many people in the Nigerian community has been reaching out to the families to console them, to condole with them, and of course to wish them well in these circumstances.
We're saying thoughts and prayers. Councillor, just a couple of months ago we were saying thoughts and prayers, and this was about a 15-year-old girl, Eliane Anderson, I believe, who was stabbed to death, also going to school on a bus. Why does it appear as if we are hearing about these tragic circumstances more and more and more in this country?
Yeah, you see, it is very clear. I'm a Labour councillor anyway, so I'll say straight away as it is. The way it's been happening since 2010, when the Conservative-led government came into power, it has been caught. They came with the austerity. As I tell you today, the Metropolitan Police numbers has been decreasing, and it keeps going down. Even the head of the police was saying it's a worrying concern, for her. Also, the youth places, the youth centers. Of course, due to austerity, these monies for these youth places has been cut as well, which is seriously affecting the issues. And the typical example is that of my borough, although we had an issue last year with knife as well, which is being tackled locally. But I can tell you straightly, there's been cut since 2010. In 2010, my council was receiving £120 million from the central government, as at the last budget in February 2024 was down to about £12 million. So no doubt, it's definitely affecting the local community and, of course, the youth, which in most cases, have been part of this issue more. Is affecting them because of the youth centers that's been closed down, the youth events they're supposed to have, which has been shut down, the youth offices, youth areas which they go to. So many youth programs has been caught and has been affected. So directly on the streets, I don't want to come here and start saying, it's poverty issues, lack of education. Those are textbook things. We all know that. But straight on the streets, I tell you, it's due to the courts of these youth programs that's not functioning anymore.
Thank you, Councillor, for that broad assessment. And you opened up a can of worms because, there are so many elements to what you've mentioned. First of all, I think it's only right to say that, of course, what happened to poor Daniel on Tuesday morning doesn't appear to be gang-on-gang knife crime and a lack of youth centres. We know that this is still a developing story, but perhaps this has got an issue with mental health and the fact that the NHS has been so underfunded. You referred to the fact that you are representing the Labour Party. If we talk about knife crime, which has risen significantly, about 23% over the past year, that is controlled by a Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who, by the way, is facing a barrage of criticism because our viewers, most of whom will be watching from Nigeria, will be aware that not just knife crime has increased, snatch and grab robberies. We've had celebrities like Tiwa Savage, Cuppy, DJ Cuppy, talking about coming into London, getting their items snatched out of their hands. Surely we can't just blame these issues on a Conservative government or a Conservative Prime Minister. There is something really nasty going on in the capital at the moment, and our viewers back home are shocked to see that their children are not safe on their way to school.
You see, immediately that news broke on Tuesday morning. Somebody called me from Nigeria and for this takes us back to Damilola Taylor, when he was coming from library and issues like that. I said, well, yeah, definitely the Nigerian community is shocked as well to see what's happening, to hear what's going on. And there's so many reasons we could that we pin this to. But like I said earlier on, the textbook reasons are there. There's poverty, lack of job, substance abuse as well. Because how can you imagine somebody waking up in the morning, putting up a sword and goes towards a school to cause to wreak havoc, to cause pain? And I don't know what's, but like I said, it's in the courts now. The person probably will be charged during this week. It's alleged murder. But definitely we'll find out what's led, what has inspired such attack. But like I said earlier, the courts is by the central government to the individual boroughs, which the Conservatives are so proud of. I must tell you that has led to falling numbers of police on our streets, has led to the cut of youth centers, of youth programs as well, which in this case finds mentors, to mentor these young ones, to talk to them. And of course, we know about this formative age years of between 17 to 24, where the lack of consequences. So the youth, they don't know what the consequences of their actions are, or probably they said the brain was not fully formed until 21, 23. So our youth needs good mentors, good people around them. Of course, I've not mentioned about the family issues as well. Some says, when the family is broken, the youth, the children are broken as well. But in all cases, because the youth centers I mentioned earlier help provide succor, help provide mentors for these young ones, which that money is not there anymore. And as a matter of fact, to arrest this situation, that needs to be looked into. I don't know how soon we're going to have a new government, but as soon as the new government is in, I'm sure they're going to pump money into, recruiting police en masse, pumping money into youth development, into youth programs, into youth centers all across town.
So thank you so much for your time and expertise, Councillor Babatunde Ajisola, who is an IT consultant for projects and business continuity. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In recent years, Africa has emerged as a hub of technological innovation, which has been boosted by embracing the power of artificial intelligence to drive progress and development across various sectors of the digital economy, from healthcare to agriculture, education to finance. AI is revolutionizing the way we approach challenges and unlock new opportunities. Infrastructure and financial consultant Swinney joined me earlier in the studio for more on this. So Swinney, it's an absolute pleasure having you in the Channel's Business Global studio. Thank you for taking time out of your duties in Oxford University to come and spend some time with us in the London studio, particularly to talk about artificial intelligence. The Minister of Communications is really interested in adopting the technology across Nigeria. Of course, he was part of the Bletchley Park Historic Summit, where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak invited world leaders, including Elon Musk, to talk about the safety of artificial intelligence. Because yes, it is fantastic if you're able to use ChatGPT, but there is also some danger. Talk to me about the landscape and how it involves Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Juliana. It's a pleasure to be here with you in the studios to talk about artificial intelligence. A lot of people talk about the danger of AI, but I want to look at the positive side of AI. The landscape of AI is enormous. It's not just ChatGPT. You have a lot of technology that go into it. The industry is the only industry that's in the trillions of dollars.
Wow.
So it means something. It means the positive side in terms of drug discovery. It speeds up the process of molecular biology to get treatment for ailments like cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, and today sickle cell that afflicts mostly the Negroid, the black race. So I want to look at the positive side. It's creating already efficiency, higher GDP for the countries that have adopted artificial intelligence, led by the USA, followed by China, and the UK is coming a close third. The industry in the UK has just hit $1 trillion. USA and China already in a double-digit $1 trillion business. And the 4 leading companies in the USA or in the world that have hit $1 trillion stock price are all AI companies. That's Google, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, and the rest of them. So artificial intelligence must be seen from the point of view of the positive impact. Of course, every good thing has the downside. So let's look at the benefit to humanity of the positive side of artificial intelligence.
Thank you for that assessment. And you're right about those big tech titans, because we are bang in the middle of first quarter trading update season, and both Google and Meta have spoken about forecasting to spend more money on artificial intelligence products throughout 2024. I want to go back to Nigeria because, of course, at the moment, lots of criticism about the government. There's been a few gaffes along the way, but lots of Nigerians are looking at scorecards. They're looking at what ministers are doing, and there doesn't appear to be much appreciation of what Bosun Tijani is doing in his digital communications ministry, but it does have a major focus on artificial intelligence strategy. But a lot of people are saying we're not really ready for that. Data's too expensive. Can we focus on core issues? But do you think this is something the ministry should be focusing on?
The ministry is called Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy.
That's right.
Bosun Tijani's KPI is to bring Nigeria up to speed in those 3 areas, and he's doing his job. He cannot do the job of other ministers or other ministries. As far as that ministry is concerned and its KPI is concerned, for me, from here in Oxford, and having been a member of the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy Workshop, I think the young man has done very well so far, and we must encourage him. Of course, people will always criticize because a lot of people lack understanding and knowledge of artificial intelligence. Some of these developments must go pari passu, of course, with infrastructure. AI and electricity are like hand and gloves. They go together, they're like 5 and 6. And while the ministry that is charged with the adoption of AI is doing its bits, then the power minister, the minister of water resources, because AI uses a lot of electricity and water, must be up to their game. It is a whole mosaic that should come together. If you're given a responsibility as a minister, as a PAMSEC, whatever responsibility you're given to, you have to concentrate and give it your best shot. And let others in their own space put in their best. So working together as a team, you get the best out of it.
It's so short because there's always so much to speak about with somebody like you, Sir Sani. But you're not in Nigeria, you're in Oxford, of course. So we're certainly going to have you back in the studio again to discuss some of the projects that you're working on in the area of artificial intelligence and Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.
I'll be glad
today.
to be back.
The full interview with Mr. Oroche will be available online after the show. Now to my final topic. Chowdeck, Nigeria's leading on-demand delivery service, has just secured $2.5 million in seed funding to optimize its operations and support expansion into more cities across the country. As Nigeria's economy continues to expand, fueled by a burgeoning e-commerce sector, the demand for efficient and reliable delivery services has never been higher. For more on this, I'm now being joined by Chowdeck CEO and co-founder Femi Aluko, who joins me from Lagos State. Femi Aluko, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. Firstly, congratulations on Chowdeck securing an extra $2.5 million in seed funding. Looking ahead for the rest of 2024 and beyond, what innovations and expansions do you envision for your food delivery app now you've got more money in the coffers?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think top of mind for us is just like deepening our current presence in our current markets. We are currently live in 8 cities in Nigeria. We want to continue to like deepen our presence in those cities, continue to provide the best experiences for our customers. And we've also launched like other products that doesn't just deliver food. We now deliver groceries, we deliver medicinal items, we also deliver packages. So it's just to continue to like expand our product offering and continue to provide the best experiences to our customers. But that's why we had to secure more funding, because of course like operational issues continue to like cause problems from time to time. So for us, we are at the point where we've had like the love of our customers, we've achieved product market fit for our restaurant delivery products, and then we just want to continue to like expand on that product offering. Like how can we continue to like just optimize our deliveries, ensure that our customers get their food delivered to them in under 30 minutes, which is what we stand for, which is the inspiration for building Chowdeck in the first place. Yeah.
Wow. I was just thinking as you were talking there, if the chef is as fast as the way you talk, then I'm sure the customers are getting their food very, very hot. But I do want to talk in all seriousness, Femi, about digital inclusion and financial inclusion, because of course, when investors are looking at a business such as Chowdeck, they're of course looking at the numbers and the scalability, but then a business like yours can only scale if you're including the vast majority of the population that are not digitally or financially included. What are your plans to make sure that Chowdeck can access local bookers and people who wouldn't necessarily be able to use such apps?
Yes. Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. I think from where we sit, like most of our early set of restaurants are actually the local restaurants. The woman that sells amala, the woman that sells bakery, that's like local African meals that people actually love. And food delivery is still in its very early days today in Africa. Because when I think about the other continents, for example, when I think about the US, we have DoorDash, Uber Eats delivering millions of deliveries every day. Same in China, same in Latin America, same in Europe too. But like in Africa today, no one is even doing up to 100,000 food deliveries every day. So like it's a huge market. We've also had like massive internet penetration in Africa over the last few years. Like a lot of Africans are now online. People are on TikTok, they're on Instagram. Like people like this is like second nature to a lot of customers. So we believe that this is the right time to tap into the market and just have a lot of our customers like start building the habit of ordering food online.
Wonderful. I can feel the passion through the airwaves, and passion, of course, is the main ingredient, as you and your local chefs would know. So I'm sure there's more greater success for you and Chowdeck. Thank you so much, Femi Aluko, who is the CEO and co-founder of Chowdeck. Congratulations on all the success. The full interview with Femi will be available online after the show. Sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.